thank you, Bob, for the compliment. But I have to thank all of you in this room, I think, because for us in Asia Pacific, the channel is the most important part of our business. More than half of my revenue is generated through you, with you, or through you. And we're winning. And you heard Bob explain to us that we're winning globally. And I will shortly explain to you what we've done in Asia Pacific. And I can guarantee you it was an outstanding year, mostly because of you. Because actually you did better than our direct sales. We're winning because we have the best portfolio in the market. And you heard Bob allude to that as well. We have the most comprehensive and most integrated digital twin in the market. And with the upcoming acquisition of Altair, we'll become even more competitive. We have the most, I would say, how would you call it? I would say the most proven cloud solution in the market. Because we have some competitors that have cloud solutions as well. Well, guess what? Some of the customers that have made that transition are actually coming back to us because it does not work. So how did we do in 24? So I'll start where Bob left off. And you saw that Bob mentioned that our overall cloud ARR growth across the globe was 71%. We actually delivered a staggering 84% year over year. And that is phenomenal because we've been on this journey for 3 years already. So the base is becoming bigger. So growing at these rates is getting harder and harder. Now, this is done, first of all, through, of course, our net new business in the cloud. But a big part of this growth is also coming from the flip from subscription and maintenance into hybrid SaaS or SaaS. I have to call out the performance. By the way, these are the indirect results. So this excludes our direct business. And I have to give a compliment to Japan because 99% growth, that is really a phenomenal achievement in channel. Now you might ask yourself, why is ANZ so low? Well, it's actually very good news because they're basically done. And you'll see that in the slide later. They have gone through this transition and 99% of their business is now readable, so there is nothing more to do there. The most important growth metric for us as a company, already for a couple of years, is our ARR. And you heard Bob speak about that when we announced to the markets that we would become a SaaS company. We introduced this metric, and we committed to the markets that we would grow our ARR CAGR over the 3-year period by double digits. The channel delivered 18% growth year over year in 24. 18. And that is outstanding. That is far better than any of our competitors. So we're gaining a lot of market share. And here you see a great result in India as well of 41% growth year over year. So outstanding result. And this, of course, leads to a more predictable revenue stream, not only for us, but mostly for you. And we are a little bit lower than the global average. That's because of China. I think Bob already explained that. We're still mostly on a perpetual model here. But what you see here, and I just called out ANZ, they're already 99% ratable. So that means that 99% of their revenue will keep coming back every year. And this is extremely important, not only for us, but also for you. And will make your revenue more predictable, make it easier for you to invest in your company and grow further. I'll come back to that a little bit later. So, how did we do overall? Asia Pacific, including everything, grew the business by 16.2%. Now, I just mentioned that channel grew at 18%, so actually you did better than our direct sales, which is phenomenal. Now, traditionally, our biggest market has been automotive. That's still the case. It's still growing. That environment becomes tougher. We all read the news about what's happening in Europe. There's also some news about the Japanese automotive market. Interesting thing is, we're still growing that business, and we still see a lot of opportunity in the coming years as well. Then electronics and semiconductor, a very fast growth market for us as well. And there we see, well, historically we've done a lot of business in Southeast Asia, but we see a lot of growth currently in Japan, as well as in India as well. Now, the interesting part is we're trying to get less dependent on these two industries and invest a little bit more in some of the others, that the highest growth last year came actually from aerospace and defense, where we grew the business by 63% year over year. You heard Bob talk about battery, where we had a strategic initiative a couple of years ago to become the market leader in battery. Now, for those of you who don't know, 70% of the global market share for battery is actually in Asia Pacific, a lot of that in China, by the way. And we grew that business by 43% ARR. So we're clearly the market leader in the battery business today, and there's still a lot of opportunity for us going forward. And then finally, number 3, which is actually the smallest one on this slide, but I think it has a lot of potential, particularly in Japan, but maybe in some of the upcoming economies like India and China as well, is medical device, where we grew the business by 40%. So a nice spread across multiple industries, and I believe that these industries that I just mentioned will grow even faster in the coming years. So we're very well positioned with the wins that we had last year, because that gives us credible references that we can build upon. Now, what I believe is our biggest opportunity is our X portfolio. And last year we talked about Panasonic and their Transform to Cloud program, where they went from an on-premise, heavily customized environment to a cloud-based solution with TCX. And this year we've built upon that success across the zone. And you see a nice curve there for our TCX products. Now, we launched this already a while ago. I have to admit, in the beginning, we've had some challenges. Luckily, we got those under control, and actually the customer satisfaction at the moment is really high. So that gives me a lot of confidence that we can build upon this. The good news about this is that customers that use TCX generate an ARR that is 2 to 3 times higher than an on-premise solution. Now, we made a decision, because we are measured on ARR as a business, to also measure the channel on ARR growth as well. So this is a big opportunity for you to make your numbers, to transform your existing customers to cloud, and of course to sell more new business in cloud. We see a steady growth of Polarion X, but what actually surprised me the most is the growth that we're seeing in NXX. Now, this was only launched in the second half of 24. You heard Bob talk about the fact that we had 126 new logos. Well, I can tell you that 2/3 of those actually came from this audience. So 2/3 of the NXX deals actually came from Asia Pacific, and Korea had over 40 deals alone. So there's a huge momentum for NXX. And what I learned during my conversations with BJ about their success in Korea is that, what I didn't really expect, by the way, is that one of the reasons that we are so successful is the integrated data management. For many smaller companies, they say, this is sufficient for us, it's good enough. We have all our data in the cloud, it's secure, we don't have to worry about it. And what we're seeing now is that many of these customers are now upgrading to TCX Premium or other solutions. So it's a great opportunity for us going forward. Now, we grew this business by 200% year over year. I truly believe we can do 400% this year. There's so much opportunity, and almost all of these deals are competitive wins. And I will show you a couple later on. Now, when we told the markets that we were going to become a cloud company, and that we said we can grow our ARR by double digit over the next few years, we said that is coming for a large part because we think our addressable market will increase, and we have a bigger opportunity in the SMB market with our X portfolio. And that shows. So this audience has added over 2,000 new logos this year in channel, which is more than 50% of our global new logo business. So this is very, very important. We are still, well, in many of the countries in this region, an SMB-dominated market, and these small companies can become the giants of the future. These can become the Teslas of the future or the Apples of the future. And you know, I think about a couple of years ago, we had a speaker here from Ola, an EV startup in two-wheelers. The company went public. I think they're now worth $2 billion. It is, of course, some of them will not survive. That's the flip side of this. But these could be the giants of the future. So the channel is the most important generator of new logos for us. and is therefore very important for our future. And this is a true land and expand business. You might come in with one seed and grow with them as they move forward as well. So well done. So with that, I think you all deserve an applause because this is a phenomenal result. All right, so that was 24. Now, how can we do better? And I think we have a large opportunity going forward. I showed this slide last time, and this is about the size of the SMB in Asia Pacific. And if you look at the percentages there, you see that by far the majority of the addressable market is actually in the SMB. Now, we as a direct sales force will never go after that. We rely on you to cover that market, and as you saw before, we added 2,000 new logos, but it's still only the tip of the iceberg. There's still so much for us to gain in this market, and I think what we're seeing with our X portfolio, we're now, for example, winning against Autodesk, which is a market where we didn't pay that much attention to in the past. We're mostly fighting against CATIA and PDC and Autodesk sometimes, but I think we have a true opportunity in the market to also go after them now, particularly because they're not so strong in data management, which we have integrated. So I will highlight this with two success stories. This is one from ProLim, where we competed against Onshape and Dassault at a company called Trizo Motors. It's an EV startup, small company still. But if you look at their requirements, I mean, they want styling, they want ECAD, MCAD integration, they want to have data management, and they want to have it in the cloud. And we positioned NXX. This is actually the first NXX deal that we closed in India on a 3-year agreement. And beat the competition in this deal. It's only a small deal, but this is just a start. As this company grows, we'll be able to add more solutions as we go along. And actually, having said that, Matthew sent me a text message this morning when I woke up that we won another nice deal in India with an eVTOL startup where we replaced CATIA. Now they bought Teamcenter and they replaced Ansys. And that was a 100K ACV deal that we closed this morning, also in a startup. And there you see the impact of a land and expand strategy in practice. I already spoke about the success that Korea had in NXX. I think this is a nice story. It's a company that was founded in 2015 in medical device. They were using Inventor and the Vault as well as PDC. They went IPO. They wanted to become more mature. They wanted to have an infrastructure that is scalable towards the future, that could grow with them as they become bigger. They decided to replace their CAD system, their mechanical CAD system. That was in Q3 of 24. Then you see 1 month later, they buy into TCX Premium. So we have the first upsell or cross-sell in 1 quarter later, and now in Q2, they're already adding users. So here you see the power of a land and expand strategy, and this creates huge opportunity for us. Once we get into these customers, even though it's only a small deal, we have so much more to sell. And by the way, we're constantly adding products. We're also doing acquisitions that can help you sell more within these existing customers. And I think that's still a big opportunity for us there, because there's many customers where we just have one portfolio piece that we're selling, and I sometimes believe that we can do more. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this particular slide, because Bob Houwbroek will explain this further in his presentation. It's just to illustrate that we've been adding a lot of solutions on the X portfolio already. I just spoke about the success of NXX. We now have Solid X, which I think would be a great opportunity for our channel as well, and some other products in the pipeline soon, to which Bob will allude to later. Then, yeah, you know, sometimes I talk to my people and say, yeah, the economy is bad, it's hard. That could be the case, but it's something we cannot influence. We can still grow our business as long as we keep beating the competition, and that's what we have been doing. Because 18% growth in our channel, 16.2% growth overall. I read the results of our competitors. I listen to their analyst calls and so on, so I think I have an idea what they're doing. Dassault, our biggest competitor, I would say, in Asia Pacific, is struggling. They gave 2 consecutive profit warnings in Q3, or Q2, their Q2 and Q3. They're having serious issues in Europe. Now, I would say, unfortunately, they're still doing quite well in Asia. I think they grew 9% year to date, which is okay, but we do better. But particularly in China, they're still doing quite well. So I think we need to go after them. I think we have the opportunity to really compete with them head to head. We have a way better cloud solution. And yesterday I had my management team meeting here in Kuala Lumpur with my team. And there were actually 2 examples where Dassault initially won the deal, and then they couldn't deliver, and they came back to us. And I think that's the biggest differentiator against Dassault. Nice slides, nice presentations, but they very often fail in the ability to execute, where we, I think, are outstanding. So I think that's our unique selling point, except for all the technical details in our cloud solutions, where we can beat them. So go after them. I think they're having some issues at the moment. They're getting more and more aggressive because their results are not where they should be. I heard that they're very aggressive on the last compliance side, in their discounting and so on, so it's also dangerous. But I would keep them busy. Then Autodesk, as I talk SMB, they're still a very large player in that area. Autodesk has made a decision to go direct, so they transact directly with their end customers. They will pay their partners a referral fee. That has not been very well received in the market. They have not implemented this in every country, by the way, but they will. And we see a lot of unhappy partners coming to us because they cannot make the margins anymore that they used to, and that's putting their business under pressure. So I think that's also an opportunity. They lose the intimacy between the partner and the end customer, and I think we should go after them as well. And you saw a nice win in the slide that I presented earlier. Now, PDC actually did quite well in Asia Pacific. They grew 13%, but it's on a very, very small number. I can tell you we are 3 times bigger than PDC is, so I don't even consider them as our biggest competitor at the moment. They're quite weak in Asia Pacific. And then finally, Ansys. They are very big in our region. For those of you that are in the simulation domain, you know that in many companies, it's sort of the default solution in the simulation department. However, with our Altair acquisition that is upcoming, I think we have now a portfolio that will enable us to compete with Ansys. And not only that, as you know, they've been recently acquired by Synopsys, so they're busy with that. We have a lot of partners coming to us because Ansys is going direct, not only in the larger accounts, but now also in the mid-market. So they want to sell our solutions because Ansys has taken over their customers. And then finally, it's still an isolated simulation player. They cannot offer the digital threads that we have. They don't have the breadth of the portfolio that we have. They can only go to the simulation department and sell to the technical guys. We have way more to offer, and I think this is probably one of the biggest opportunities in our market. I mean, in Korea, they're huge. In Japan, they're huge. So I think this is an opportunity for us to go after as well. Now, profitability, because growing is one thing, but we have to grow in a profitable way. And you will hear more about this in Simon Chu's presentation together with Jeff. And I cannot stress enough the importance of selling multi-year agreements. Now, we've been doing really well in the transition to cloud, but I have to say we can do better in terms of our term length, meaning we sell a lot of one-year contracts, where I think it's better for all of us if we are able to sell multi-year contracts. Why? First of all, they cannot churn for 3 years. Right? The customer cannot churn. But secondly, it gives us more time to make sure that the customer adopts our technology, to make sure that they're trained, to make sure that we deliver on the promise and the business case that we had when we sold them the software. And as a result of that, when you sell 3-year contracts, the churn after 3 years is way lower than it is when you would have a 1-year contract. And I know that it's sometimes hard to move a customer from a 1-year maintenance contract to a multi-year ratable contract or a hybrid SaaS contract, we have tried to use a carrot and a stick approach where we said, okay, we're going to increase the maintenance by 15% and we'll give you an opportunity to sign a multi-year agreement at a way lower increase. Now that has been successful to some extent, but there's still a long way to go in Asia, particularly on these multi-year agreements. And why is this so important for you? And that is what Simon is going to show you later. If you assume a churn of 12% every year, which is sort of the average that we calculate with, the difference in total revenue after 3 years between selling a 1-year agreement and a 3-year agreement is actually 27%. So if you're capable of selling 3-year agreements, your revenue, your recurring revenue, which will come back every year, will be 27% higher than selling a 1-year contract. Now there have been some concerns, particularly in some countries here in Asia, about the credit risk that it brings along when you sign a multi-year agreement. I understand that, but I will tell you, we look at how many companies go bankrupt, and that's not a lot. So the risk is relatively limited if you look at the opportunity on the revenue side of having multi-year agreements. I think this is very important. Now, it drives our competitive edge. I showed you a couple of wins against the competition. We're very successful with our X products. We're displacing a lot of competition. We create a lock-in when they're on the cloud, but it also gives us a platform to grow. You saw that in some of the examples I showed you. It makes it way easier to make the next step on your journey because we're just adding on to the cloud solution that they already have. They don't have to worry about the implementation. They don't have to worry about doing the upgrades or maintaining the systems. It's there. And we saw this in some of the larger customers as well, where we deployed to one division, and then once it worked, they just spread it out across the other ones and say, if it works for them, it will work for you as well. And for a IT organization, a CIO, this is, of course, a huge benefit as well. Then when you start working on your roadmap, you're not going to buy an isolated solution anymore. You're not going to buy Ansys here or an ALM solution from a competitor there. It's way easier to add all of this to our platform as well. So it unlocks the total lifetime value of a customer when you start selling your X products, particularly on a multi-year agreement. And then most importantly, the economy has been very favorable for many years. But of course, you can end up in a downturn, and that gives you some protection because your revenue will not be immediately impacted when you're on ratable contracts. Whereas in a perpetual world, and we saw this during COVID, your revenue will almost drop to zero because nobody's buying anything at that point in time. So, at the end of my presentation, I think we've done a phenomenal job in moving to hybrid SaaS. We grew our X products by 200%. And as I said, I believe we can double this. We can do 400% this year. We are very competitive in this market. I think we have the right price point. And you saw in the wins that I already mentioned before that we are beating the competition. And of course, the land, expand, adopt, expand, and renew, where our renewal rates are the most important thing going forward. They're a little bit lower than the other zones, and that's why I emphasize the 3-year agreements to help us improve in that area as well. So not only do we win together, but I also want you to win in a profitable way. I thank you all. I look forward to speaking to you over the next few days during the event, and I will hand it over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.